Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm using my own system to do this recording because I was doing the YouTube live, but for some reason it's just spinning and spinning. So I'm recording this. I'm gonna post it to my social media accounts for anyone that missed it. But this particular session and running a little bit late. I have like the worst toothache in the world. But anyways, today is, if you're not aware, today is the harvest moon. It's a full moon. And every month we have a full moon and they have names. And the names are, some come from Native American names and different things like that. But they correspond to different things. So this month is the harvest moon. And I just want us to do this really quick, just kind of like an overview of the phases of the moon, because a lot of times people will see people posting things about, full moon and new moon rituals and manifesting with the moon, and may not understand that a lot of these things have a scientific reasons for why they are being done. So just wanted to go over the phases of the moon, exactly what that is, and talk more about the harvest moon. And so I want to start off like the moon. It has different phases, and it's pretty much based on how much light is being that you can see. It's being reflected off of the sun. So the dark part of the moon is the Earth's shadow on the moon, and it rotates on its axis. So you have these different phases of the moon. So the new moon, you pretty much can't see it. So as the moon gets closer, as it does its rotation, you can, it's waning and then waxing. It goes through this particular cycle, almost like a woman's cycle, pretty much. That's, pretty much probably where we get that name from, a cycle. So the new moon is barely visible and occurs when the earth and the moon are aligned and the sun and earth are on the opposite sides of the moon. Now, you'll hear a lot of people talk about full moon rituals and manifesting, but you also have a lot of people that do new moon rituals because there are specific deities in different cultures that are, relate to different aspects of the moon. So when you're talking about the moon, you're really talking about the energy, from a scientific standpoint, the energy that's being emitted. So like the tides, it's known that the moon affects the tides. Also, there are studies that a lot of times, like police departments and emergency rooms, they get filled up around the new moon because there's this impact that the moon has on the individual. So there's energy that is being created and that we are actually being exposed to here on Earth, whether we realize it or not. Now, the waxing crescent, this is when the moon, this is when what occurs when the moon begins to become visible again after a new moon. So it's waxing, it's getting bigger. So you can think of the word waxing and waning. Waxing is when it's, as far as the eye is concerned, the moon looks like it's getting larger or it's growing. So the first quarter moon, this occurs when the moon reaches the first quarter of its orbit around the Earth. It looks like a half moon, but remember, the moon is a 3D shape. So the waxing gibbous, this is the moon where the visibility of the moon is getting bigger. Again, think waxing, getting bigger, and then on the opposite side of the full moon, which I'll talk about in a second, it's waning. So that means it's getting smaller or less visible. A waxing gibbous moon means the visibility is getting bigger. Again, keep that in mind. Waxing is getting bigger. Now, after that, the phase that you come to is where we are tonight, which is the full moon. And now with the full moon, it's not that you just you can time it. And say, okay, the full moon will appear on the East Coast at 7:15, I think between 7:15 and 7:55 on the East Coast. But that doesn't mean that that's the only time that you're going to be able to see the full moon. Full moon typically lasts 2 days after that time period. So today's the 20th. You typically see the full moon up in the sky up until September 22nd, which happens to fall a day after the fall equinox. We're going to be going into a new season tomorrow. September 21st is the first day of fall. Now it's weird because when you think of harvest, and keep in mind the moon cycles, farmers back in the day before we had this, sophisticated calendar and clock systems and so forth and so on, they would use the moon and the celestial, the sky and the stars and so forth and so on to be able to determine when to plant certain crops and harvest time and so forth and so on. See, we're not in that time anymore, so it becomes more magical. Back then it wasn't really this magical type thing. It was really a way of life. So the moon and even the stars and the celestials, were looked at as a way to be able to determine the best time to do these particular things. So it's kind of, when you think about harvest, you think about, oh, this is a time to bring in or harvesting a crop. But in the fall, typically you're thinking of things like the trees losing their leaves and things. And so you're thinking of the trees dying in that cycle. So it almost seems to be opposite. But the harvest moon is typically equated to, again, this goes back to science and farming and so forth and so on, to harvesting. Now, the waning gibbous, this happens after full moon. So after the moon reaches, I'm going to use for lack of better words, reaches its peak or its visibility, now it starts going through the opposite, where now instead of it getting bigger as it gets to the full moon, now it's starting to get smaller, because now it's decreasing in visibility because it's going further away. So you're going to see it less, as far as the eye is concerned. Now, the waning crescent moon has less than half of the moon still visible. And so this is this cycle that is going to start going through the same cycle again, where you see it waxing, it gets to the full moon, and then it's going to start waning. So I just kind of wanted to touch on this really quick because, you'll see a lot of, posts around this time, full moon rituals and manifesting with the moon. And a lot of times we kind of equate these type of activities to like, pseudoscience and witchcraft and all these other things, but it's really very scientific. It's just that our society has advanced so much, we don't look at the moon to determine when we're going to harvest or plant anything. Most of the times, most of us don't even have our own farms or crops or even plants. But back in the day, this was critical to people's livelihoods. So I just wanted to touch on that really quick. I'm going to do another live tomorrow. I'm going to talk about fall. Tomorrow's the beginning of fall, and the seasons and how that kind of corresponds to us and our bodies, and how you can really start preparing yourself for certain seasons and what comes up in those particular seasons as far as health wise. Certain times of the year, there's the flu season, so you have to start getting your body prepared, taking more vitamin C in, making sure that you're putting certain things in your body. Make sure you have certain things available in your home just in case you do get sick, because we're going to be going into the fall season where it's starting to get colder, and then we're going to be hitting up on the flu season, and, we have COVID going on. So you want to kind of look at the seasons, look at these things like that seem to be like, ooh, look at them more as getting in touch with your body and understanding that seasons and things impact you as a human being. Even if you don't want to do like a ritual or anything like that, it's really important to understand how certain things impact you. Like this, think about global warming. You may not really be into, the earth and the environment, but all of us get impacted by the warming of the earth, the earth and the atmosphere and what's going on. So just like with that, it's really important when seasons come up to start preparing yourself. You have to dress differently. You may have to eat differently, put more things into your body. So it's really important to take the mysticism out of some of these things that we consider to be strange, weird, witchcraft, and so forth and so on. So I just want to end it with that. Now I'm going to switch my camera here. I don't know if I finally came up on live on YouTube, because I have both going simultaneously, but I'm going to switch my camera here if I can. And because I'm going to do a really quick numerology reading So I'm going to pause my camera really quick, this one, because I want to switch my camera so I can do a really quick numerology reading. And then I'm going to check the YouTube live and see if that finally came up as well. Okay, no, my YouTube live is not up yet. And I am not sure. I'm using a different system than I usually use. So I'm going to, because I was planning on using YouTube live. And I was planning on doing a numerology reading through during this time. So what I'm going to do is end this, post it, and then I'm going to try to go back into YouTube and do a live. If not, I'm just going to record it and then I will upload it later. So look for that. Again, I'm going to go live again tomorrow. Tomorrow's the first day of fall, so I'm going to be doing another live, and I'll be also offering another or several, depending on how generous I feel, numerology readings. So check that out for that, my YouTube channel, and hopefully you found this helpful.